Yeah, stop. Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, we will begin our practice by setting a proper motivation, which consists of 3 parts. While being mindful of both aspects, the object being visualized and the manner in which you visualize it. First, the refuge field. In the space in front of you, visualize Buddha Shakyamuni, His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, and all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, or any other enlightened beings you regard with veneration. They are looking upon you with immense kindness and unconditional love, just as a mother looks upon her only child. Bodhicitta field. Visualize seated on either side of you, your kind parents, mother on the left, father on the right. Additionally, you are accompanied by all other dear mother sentient beings, leaving one aside, and you are leading them in this practice. The purpose of this practice, to manifest the Buddha nature within you, which is the ultimate source of happiness, by removing the 2 mental obscurations, afflictive obscurations, consisting of the afflictions of negative emotions, contaminated karmas, and their corresponding active seeds, and the cognitive obscurations, the subtle stains, that is, inactive latencies of the afflictions and contaminated karmas. So with this, let us recite the following verses. Enthused by great compassion, you taught this immaculate Dharma to dispel all perverted views. To you, the Buddha Gautama, I pay homage. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the immaculate Dharma to dispel all perverted views. To you, the Buddha Gautama, I pay homage. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the immaculate Dharma to dispel all perverted views. To you, the Buddha Gautama, I pay homage. Sangye chodang tsokye chonam la chanjo patu dani gyapsu chi dake jinso geba chonam ki dola penje sangye joba sho. Sangye chodang tsokye chonam la chanjo patu dani gyapsu chi dake jinso geba chonam ki dola penje sangye joba sho. Sangye chodang tsokye chonam la chanjo patu dani gyapsu chi dake jinso geba chonam ki dola penje sangye joba sho. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By my accumulations of the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By my accumulations of the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By my accumulations of the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. In dependent origination, there is no ceasing, no arising, no inhalation, no permanence, no coming, no going, no separateness, and no sameness. I prostrate to the consummate Buddha, the supreme among all teachers, the one who taught this peace, which is freed of all elaborations. I prostrate to the mothers of the hearers, the Bodhisattvas and the Buddhas, who, through the knowledge of all, lead hearers seeking pacification to complete peace, who, through the knowledge of paths, cause those helping migrators to achieve the aims of the world, and who, through the possession of omniscience, help subtruers expound a variety of teachings. The one who have transformed into the reliable guide, motivated by altruism to benefit sentient beings, the teacher, Sukata, and protector, to you amid prostrations. The one who have eliminated the web of conceptualizations and is endowed with the divine bodies of the vast and the profound, who eternally shines forth the forever noble light rays, to you, the Buddha, I make prostrations. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind of full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. We will hear the recording of the essence of Tibetan origination mantra by Venerable Geshe. Om ye dharma hetu pradama hetum tesham tathagato yanata tesham chayo nirodha evam bhati mahashramanaye swaha. Om ye dharma hetu pradama hetum tesham tathagato yanata tesham chayo nirodha evam bhati mahashramanaye swaha. Om ye dharma hetu pradama hetum tesham tathagato yanata tesham chayo nirodha evam bhati mahashramanaye swaha. Meaning of the Tentra mantra. All phenomena arise from causes. The causes are taught by the Tathagata. The cessation of the causes as well is taught by the Great Seer. Profound, peaceful, elaboration-free, clear light and non-composite, such is the nectar-like Dharma I have discovered. Finding no one who can fathom this teaching, in silence I retire into the woods. Beyond utterance, thought, and expression is the perfection of wisdom, which is unborn, unceased, and has the nature of space. It is the object of apprehension of self-realized wisdom. To you, the mother of the Buddhas, with 3 times, I pay obeisance. 4 seals of the Buddha's teachings. All composite things are impermanent. All contaminated things are of the nature of suffering. All phenomena are of the nature of emptiness and selflessness. Transcending sorrow is peace. The Guru is the Buddha, the Guru is the Dhamma. Likewise, the Guru is the Sangha. The Guru is the source of everything wholesome. I go for refuge in the Guru. By the sound of the vibrant drum of Dhamma, you liberate all beings of miseries. I beseech you to kindly remain and give teachings until the end of the expanse of billions of aeons. The Buddha does not wash the negativities of the beings, nor does he remove their miseries by his hands. His spiritual realizations are not transferred to them. It is by teaching the truth of suchness that beings are liberated. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dhamma for all bewildered in misery's gloom. Instructions on parting from the 4 attachments. If you are attached to this life, you are not a spiritual practitioner. If you are attached to samsara, you have no renunciation. If you are attached to your own self-interest, you have no bodhicitta. If there is grasping, you do not have the view. Today we will continue from In Praise of Dependent Origination Mantra, origination by Lama Tsongkhapa. Being enslaved by ignorance, those who fairly oppose you, what is so astonishing about their being, unable to bear the sound of no intrinsic existence, but having accepted dependent origination, the precious treasure of your speech, then not tolerating the rod of emptiness, this I find amazing indeed. The door that leads to no intrinsic existence is unexcelled door of dependent origination. To its name alone, if one grabs at intrinsic existence, now this person, who lacks the unrivaled entrance, weltered by noble ones, by what means should one guide him to the excellent path that pleases you? Intrinsic nature, uncreated and non-contingent, dependent origination, contingent, and created, how can these two converge upon a single basis without contradiction? Therefore, whatever originates dependently through primordially free or intrinsic existence appears as if it does possess intrinsic existence, so you thought all these to be illusion-like. To this very fact, I understand well the statement that in what you have taught, those opponents who challenge you cannot find faults that accord with reason. Why is this so? Because by declaring these chances for deification and denigration towards things seen and unseen are made most remote. Through this very path of dependent origination, the rationale for your speech being peerless, conviction arises in me also that your other words are valid too. You speak excellently by seeing as it is. For those who train in your footsteps, all degenerations will become remote, for the root of all faults will be undone. But those who turn away from your teaching, though they may struggle with hardship for a long time, faults increase evermore as if being called forth, for they make firm the view of self. Aha! When the wise comprehend the differences between these two, why would they not at that point revere you from the depths of their being? Let alone your numerous teachings, even in the meaning of a small part, those who find ascertainment in a cursory way, this brings supreme bliss to them as well. Alas, my mind was defeated by ignorance, though I have sought refuge for a long time in such an embodiment of excellence. I possess not a fraction of his qualities. Nonetheless, before the stream of this life, flowing towards death, has come to cease, that I have found slight faith in you, even this I think is fortunate. Among teachers, the teacher of dependent origination, amongst wisdom, the knowledge of dependent origination, you who are the most excellent like the kings of the world, know this perfectly well, not others. All that you have taught proceeds by way of dependent origination. That too is done for the sake of nirvana. You have no deeds that do not bring peace. How amazing! Your teaching is such, in whomsoever's ears it falls, they all attain peace. So who would not be honored to uphold your teaching? It overcomes all opposing challenges. It is free from contradictions between earlier and later parts. It grants fulfillment of being's true aims. For this system, my joy increases evermore. For its sake, you have given away again and again over countless aeons, sometimes your body, at others your life, as well as your loving kin and resources of wealth. Seeing the qualities of this teaching pulls hard at your heart, just like what a hook does to a fish. Sad it is not to have heard it from you. The intensity of that sorrow does not let go of my mind, just like the mind of a mother constantly goes after her dear child. We will continue the remaining verses in the next class. Now we will recite the Heart Sutta mantra for 7 times with Geshe-la's recording.
Om Gati Gati Paragati Parasamgati Bodhi Swaha Tyata Om Gati Gati Paragati Parasamgati Bodhi Swaha Tyata Om Gati Gati Paragati Parasamgati bodhivahatyatha Om gati gati paragati parasamgati bodhisvahatyatha Om gati gati paragati parasamgati bodhisvahatyatha Om gati gati paragati parasamgati bodhisvahatyatha Om gati gati paragati parasamgati bodhisvaha.
Okay, just hello all of you. Okay, from the last class, although I did come across somebody, but then there must be many of you who are interested to know what exactly constitutes the permanent phenomena other than emptiness. When we classify the things that come to our mind, existence or non-existence, and existence into permanent and impermanent, and permanent into ultimate reality, and the ultimate reality or emptiness, and the permanent phenomena other than ultimate reality. So many of you are so curious what falls under this category, something which is permanent phenomena but not ultimate reality. What examples do we have? Okay, for the time being, this is just like the intro, and eventually we have to learn what constitutes the permanent phenomena in the first place. What do you mean by permanent phenomena? And of course, many of you will think that I know what permanent phenomena is, but what examples do we have for permanent phenomena? And then permanent phenomena classified into two: ultimate reality and permanent phenomena other than ultimate reality. So the usually what I encourage the participants to pay attention, or not to leave things. They want not to leave things the unconvinced. In other words, whatever you learn, make it a point that you are convinced. But this is more like the intro of more detailed studies that we're going to do later on. So this is where the study of the philosophy is required. Particularly study philosophy and study logic. And don't worry about that. As long as there are some of you who like to remind me later on when we do the 10 system, I'm not too sure, but for sure we have to do this concept about the differences between the levels of ultimate reality from the point of the lower schools versus the higher schools. So that part for the time being, I'll keep it here. Otherwise, I can see that there are many who are newcomers, and they'll feel lost. So while I struggle to explain something which is a little intricate, many of you may get lost. So with that, I'll keep it for later discussion. Okay. So where we left last time is that we discussed about how the afflictions, how suffering is being created. In other words, how suffering comes into being. Suffering is the result of the contaminated karmas, which in turn are the result of the afflictions, and which in turn are results of the inappropriate attention, and then finally the result of the self-grasping ignorance. And we also cited a verse by Aranigarjuna. So please make it a point that we remember this verse. If possible, remember the verse by heart, and if not, at least try to understand the concept well. That's very important. And after having studied this, our job is to see how true it is, these five, in the form of the 5 points, how your own miseries, for example, let's say the fear of COVID-19, the feeling of the uncertainty, and the problem with your, say, the neighbors, problem with your family members, and so forth, and at the workplace. So how this uneasiness is coming. So they're all created in the form of these, through the involvement of these 5 points. From this, what we learned is that finally at the root, there's the ignorance. At the root is the ignorance. Say the miseries are like the fruits on the tree, and these fruits, they come from the flowers, and the flowers come from the buds, and the buds, they come from the tiny branches, and from the main stem, and from the root. So likewise, the miseries arising from the contaminated karmas, then the afflictions, inappropriate attention, and the ignorance. Okay, now let me explain to you more precisely what are each of these 5 points. Each of these 5 points. Last time I give the example of the dream. In dream, you have all these problems that somebody, that somebody picked up the mobile. Actually, it's a dream mobile. And you see there's a real mobile, see there's an iPhone 12, and then you just request for the exchange, and then there's a fight happening, and then you end up in prison. So this is how we explained it. Now I'm going to explain it in let's not forget the examples, but also the main points. Let's say miseries. What exactly does it mean by miseries? Miseries, there are various forms. Let's not forget it. There are various forms. What we identify as misery is just a very gross version of a misery. Suffering of suffering. In other words, a manifest suffering. This very gross version. And we have to study more the subtler version of the miseries which we could not identify at the moment. And we'll learn how to identify the subtler versions of the miseries. Okay. From this one thing, one thing we all learned last time was that with the example of the dream, say a very pleasant dream, and I ask you, say a very pleasant dream, say a dream where Tenzin Shigela Dibeshla owns up to take us all to for the inauguration discourse with the blessings of His Holiness. So you are dreaming actually, and then in the dream, then he takes us all to Dharamsala for an audience with His Holiness, and then you are very happy. Then His Holiness says, "Okay, Dibeshla, let's all have a cup of tea together," and you're all very happy. So happy. And today, if I ask you, do you like to have this dream? You always say yes. Yes. You are very happy to have this dream. Okay, how many of you really they like to have this dream tonight? If there's a possibility, raise your hands. Of course, all of us. Good. Okay. So this is where we try to feel it. Feel the philosophy within you, and then you will understand philosophy. So next question is, how many of you will have this dream tonight? How many of you will have this dream tonight? Nobody will raise their hand. Why not? It's a very pleasant dream. Yes, it's a very pleasant dream, but the fact that it's a dream, we don't have the control. We don't have the choice. We cannot decide. It is not in our hands, which means that you don't have the freedom to choose the dream. Even if it's a very pleasant dream, unpleasant dream, one thing which is common to all the dreams, across the dreams, is that you don't have the freedom to choose the dream. No freedom to choose the dream. This is lack of freedom. Lack of freedom is misery. People they fight against the tyranny, saying that no human rights, no freedom, freedom of speech. We need freedom of speech, freedom of thoughts, freedom of expression. We all crave for freedom. Where there's no freedom, that is misery. So we don't have the freedom to choose the dream. Even though it's a pleasant dream, still you don't have the freedom to choose the dream. So the flaw, one of the greatest problems with the dream is that however pleasant it is, we don't have the freedom. In other words, we have lost the freedom to choose this dream. Loss of freedom is misery. This is suffering. So if somebody were to ask you, what exactly is suffering? When we talk about the suffering created by the contaminant karmas, the afflictions, the inappropriate attention, and the ignorance, what exactly do you mean suffering? Suffering, there are so many levels, like the suffering, they say that somebody is actually abusing you, and somebody actually aggressively torturing you and so forth. So all these are sufferings, but they're very gross sufferings. Finally, what is the subtlest version of the suffering? We have to know that loss of freedom. Loss of freedom in any form, that is the suffering. Okay, with this in mind, the suffering, it has many layers. And what are the various layers of suffering? This will study as a part of the Four Noble Truths. That will study separately. Then this suffering is created by the contaminated karmas. And last time we discussed contaminated karmas. Karmas are the actions. Don't think of karma as something which is the theological concept. No, karma is just action which we can see. That you have been kind, you have been unkind, you remain very reserved, or you become very open to other people, so kind. So all these gestures, physical, verbal, and mental actions, these are your karmas. And now we talk about the contaminated karmas. What I mean? Why this word contaminated is added? Contaminated. To know this, we need to know what a contamination. Contamination is not the external contamination; is a mental contamination. Mental contamination. What contaminates our mind is the afflictions. So what is influenced? What is affected by the afflictions? The karmas or the actions which are influenced by the afflictions are known as contaminated karmas. Karmas or the actions which are done under the influence of, under the influence of afflictions is known as contaminated karmas. Okay. Good. Then the contaminated karmas, as we said earlier, these are triggered by the afflictions. What is affliction? Afflictions are the mental states, or the last time we did mention this, mental factor. You just call it mental factor, or you can just call it mental state or a mental factor. And precisely what is mental factor, this we're going to study under the Buddhist psychology. For the time being, we don't have to worry too much. Just mental state or a mental factor, the presence which disturbs your mind. any mental factor, the presence of which disturbs your mind. For example, anger, hatred, or stinginess, or ill will. All these mental factors, the presence of which disturbs your mind. These are known as afflictions. Okay. Now, one thing with afflictions is that if somebody asks you how many such afflictions are there are innumerable afflictions. In fact, we can say infinite number of afflictions. So how can we ever know all these afflictions? Don't worry, as long as we know the 3 classes of afflictions, that's fine. What are the 3 classes of afflictions? One is we talked about this. The afflictions as the presence of which disturbs your mind. Nobody wants to be disturbed. Everybody wants to be in peace. Nobody wants to be to have disturbance. But if the disturbance comes, of course, it is coming involuntarily. Involuntary, the movement of your mind, disturbance, involuntary disturbance. Now, this involuntariness of the mind, how this mind moves involuntarily, it is in 3 ways. In 3 ways. One is where the object involuntarily pulls. For example, let's say that okay, Dorji, somebody grabs me from my chest and says, Dorji, you come. Just really abuse me and pulls me like this. This involuntary pull. I don't like it. And somebody says, hey, Dorji, don't come. You go. And he pushed me. That is involuntary. I want to be there, but somebody pushed me. That is involuntary pull. Push. So we see that in fact, this is how I relate this to the physical person, another person pushing me and pulling me against my will. Now, let's see that this is exactly what happens inside your own mind. You don't really require another person there to pull you and push you involuntarily against your will. There's something inside us. When it's outside, we say there's no human rights. We fight, then we send petitions to a UNO and so forth. But when it's happening inside, you're totally unaware of. We are totally unaware of. So what happens is that, for example, say now I don't know, the elders I don't know, but the younger ones, you go to the shopping malls, and the parents, they take you to the shopping malls, and then you see the branded clothes, like what is it, Louis Vuitton or the Gucci and so forth. Your eyes have been pulled by that, and your parents picked up something which is cheaper. Oh, my daughter, my son, this is nice. No, your eyes are seen something different. No. What's the problem with this? The color is, what color do you want? Pink. Then she brings a pink one. Still something is wrong. What's wrong? It's too big. It's too small. Always there's some excuse. So because you have seen something else. So your mind is being pulled by this. So this is involuntary pull. And your mind is disturbed. When your mother is not buying that, your mind is disturbed. So your mind, this object, Gucci or whatever, that pulls your mind to the extent that when you leave and then you say, okay, Mom, I will not buy anything today. And then, okay, then Mom said, next time. Then Mom said, okay, let's go now. Then you're about to you're about to leave the door, and from the door, still your eyes are being pulled by that. And okay, let me see last time. So this is involuntary pull. And then after leaving this, there's so much of agitation inside, unhappiness inside. This is due to involuntary pull. Nobody's there. Nobody's there from the outside, who pulls you, involuntarily pulls you like this. But there is something inside that makes you to be pulled by this object. This is involuntary pull. So that is known as attachment. So this attachment makes you to involuntarily move towards the object. It doesn't give you rest. So therefore, this is poison. This steals your peace of mind. This creates disturbance in your mind. This is one. Then the other thing, without the brand's name, this, okay, this is good for you. No. So this one pushes you, right? So what is not a cheaper one without any brand? So that pushes you. No, it has this problem, that problem, all sorts. So this pushes you. So that is known as aversion. Again, it disturbs your mind. In other words, all these, say, the mental afflictions, they fall under three categories. One is involuntary pull, and the other one is involuntary push, and the third one is the ignorance, the flow of the ignorance, perpetuation of the ignorance. Let's say that you are in dream. One is the very pleasant dream, involuntary pull, and the other one is a nightmare, involuntary push, and the other one is a neutral dream, where your ignorance of not realizing it is a dream perpetuates. So the perpetuation of ignorance, there are three classes: involuntary pull, involuntary push, and the perpetuation of ignorance. These are the three classes of the afflictions, the presence of which disturbs our mind. Okay, so these afflictions, these three, are particularly involuntary pull and push. Particularly involuntary pull and push, they make you to move. They make you to have a physical and verbal movements. Say, grabbing at a Coca-Cola, or running away from his job, or say somebody you really don't like, then just by seeing this person you feel unhappy. You just feel like going away from. So involuntary push. So these movements are happening because of some thought process inside. These thought processes which steals your peace of mind, which creates disturbance in you. These are the afflictions, and they are responsible in making you to move into physical and verbal actions. Okay. Then the next question would be, okay, now that makes sense. Okay, sufferings, they come into being because of the contaminant karmas. And the contaminant karmas, because of these afflictions, it makes sense. But afflictions, how do they arise? This is the question. Afflictions, how do they arise? Okay, let's say that say you say your salary is your salary, monthly salary is, let's say, the X amount, and then okay, you are happy, and then you come to know that your friend who is less qualified, he's getting double the X. Are you happy? Not happy? Then you realize, okay, no, you're not happy. You're not happy. And then you look for promotion. While you are not getting the promotion, there's the agitation, unhappiness, mental disturbance within you. And why this unhappiness came to you, or this aversion to this particular job, paying me only X amount. Why this gives you aversion now? Because of your comparison. You're compared with somebody who's getting double X, 2X amount. By comparing that, then you see that yours one is lower, yours one is less. And then the aversion arises. You like the less one or you like more? I like them more. So you're getting less. So I'm unhappy. So this aversion comes to you because of the comparison. And this comparison, there's no harm in comparing. It doesn't mean that you cannot compare, you cannot compete. This is not the point. The point is that these are the nuances which we need to know. For example, let's say that that's very, for example, if I sit with somebody who is like 20 years old, and you look at me, you'll see me as very old. Oh, poor Dorji, he's very old. If I sit with somebody who is 90 years old, right? And slowly you just keep looking at me, adjusting to somebody who's 90 years old and surrounded with 90 years old, not only one, but 10, 20 of them, 90 years old. Then you will start to see this same person who earlier you saw as very old person. Now you see that, wow, he's a perfect complexion. His skin complexion so youthful. He doesn't look like 50, right? This is how our mind deceives. In comparison, actually that is happening through comparison, but when we see the object, we see it as so absolutely youthful, or absolutely old, or absolutely good, absolutely bad, while that concept of goodness, badness, youthful, the whatever, comes through comparison. But when you actually start to see that object appears as though like not through comparison, but as independently as absolutely, or independently as youthful, rich, poor, good, bad, kind, or the nasty, and so forth. So this is what is actually happening through comparison. This is known as the inappropriate attention. Seeing things as seeing the qualities of the object. Seeing the qualities of the object as independently real. While in actuality, these qualities come into being by only in relative terms. Okay, relative to somebody who is getting the twice 2x X amount. Okay, as relative to that, my payment is less, my salary is less. Relative to somebody who's getting half the X, I get more. And if you see that everybody around you is getting only half X or 1/4 of X, and you are getting X amount, and then depending on who you are, if you are a really immature person, you will have a sense of arrogance. Then I'm the supreme of all. The ego will come to you. That I'm the richest person. I'm the one who really deserves everything. God, look at this amount. I'm the greatest. So the ego can come. In actuality, it's just, whereas if you think of somebody who is getting 10 times the X amount that you're getting, you look at it, then you feel so low. You feel so low. So therefore, there's a Tibetan expression which says that if you feel so demoralized, let's say that you are at the middle of the mountain, if you feel so low, don't look at the top, look at the bottom. You'll feel uplifted. Okay, I'm not bad. There are many people who are lower than me. If you feel egoistic, look at the top. You'll see that I'm not the topper. There's still a topper there. So things exist in relative terms, but the ignorance makes us to perceive things as absolutely the absolute, with the absolute quality of goodness, badness, whatever. All these qualities, we see them as absolute. So when you see them as absolute, then they say, absolutely good, I want it. Absolutely good. Seeing things as absolutely good, this is known as one kind of inappropriate attention, which makes your mind to move towards that object. The mind moving towards the object, that is attachment. This attachment is because of the inappropriate attention, which makes you to believe that that particular object is absolutely independently nice, independently good. Whereas in actuality, it is only in relative terms that it is good, not that it is independently good. That is known as inappropriate attention. And this is very important. For example, say how many you in your life you are going through some form of problems, mental dissatisfactions, unhappiness. Be very honest. Raise hands. Okay. Good. Okay. Is there anybody who likes to share with us? What kind of the unhappy experiences you are going through now, or you went through before? Anybody who likes to share? Anybody? Raise hands. Okay, Mr. Wong.
I think my elder son is 18 years old son.
18 years old.
Yes.
So what's the problem?
Yeah, he thinks he is really matured. He thinks his retaliation, the sense of retaliation is too high.
His what?
Retaliation.
He thinks that he. Yes. What's the problem?
He doesn't want to study, and he just think he's going to go. He will be getting very good. He will be getting very good results, without studying. And as a parent, okay. we are very worried about it.
Okay, so sometimes it makes you lose your sleep. Oh, that's very true. That's very bad. So your son, he should come to this class. Okay, so that's very bad. Okay, now let's see. Mr. Wong has been so kind to share his the anecdote with us, and we all have something of this kind, right? How many of you have something of this kind problem? Raise hands. Something of this kind. Something of this kind. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Now, Mr. Wong, what I would tell you is that do you know that in this world there are so many young boys, age 18, age 17, who end up into, say, the robbing the banks, who end up into gangsters. You know these things happening? Is your boy one of them? No way. Very lucky. You are very lucky. Wow. You are very lucky. Otherwise, you will go through nightmare every moment. You are very lucky that your son, he's so kind that he's not creating that problem. Right? He's not coming on the newspaper. The gangster, 18 years old gangster. Wow, he's so kind. Wow, that's amazing. So what you do is that your job, when you see your son, you want a peace of mind, you want happiness to see your son, or you want agitation to see your son. Which do you want? Mr. Wong? Happiness. Very good. If you want to see your son, when you see your son, and then you want happiness to your mind, coming to your mind, if this is what you want, what you do is that you watch all these serials, newspapers, the gangsters, where 18 years boys are involved. Read them more, watch them more, and then you'll appreciate your son. Wow, you see your son, thank God, thank you so much for not being involved in the bank robbery, or for not being involved in gangsters. And what is that? There is one, okay. So I'm so lucky that, that you are not this. Whereas if you want to have this unhappiness in you by seeing your son, then don't read those parts. Only read the boys who are 18 years old, who are so obedient to the parents, who are so kind, who are always topping in the classes, who always put efforts to attain good results. Read those materials all the time. You see your son, you will have unhappiness coming to you. That's in your hand. Right? So this is known as seeing things things existing in relative terms. The goodness or the badness exists in relative terms. We see that in relative terms, but when after the relativity operating there, then you picked up that to be as intrinsically real, as objectively real as nasty boy or as the disobedient boy. So that makes you the aversion. It makes your mind to run away from this. Involuntary push happens. Okay, so this is the meaning of, say, the inappropriate attention. Means things which actually exist in relative terms. You see them as in absolute terms. That is the inappropriate attention. Inappropriate attention. Okay, now this inappropriate attention, for this, the ground is, what is cause of this inappropriate attention? There are two. One, okay, let's say, okay, let's say, how many you like flowers? Raise hands. How many like flowers? Okay. Okay, though I'm sure there are some who do not really like flowers. Even if you don't like flowers, just imagine that you are somebody who is crazy after flowers. Okay, now just imagine that I'm giving you a flower. Okay, this is my flower for you. Okay, and I'm giving you another flower. In my left hand, a bunch of flowers for you. In my right hand, another bunch of flowers. Okay, in my right hand, there is a bunch of real flowers. In my left hand, there's a bunch of imaginary flowers. Which of the two flowers do you want? If you have to, your mind goes after which of the two flowers? The bunch of flowers in my left hand or the bunch of flowers in my right hand? Which of the two flowers your mind goes after? The left flower, left hand? Okay. Why not the one in my right hand? Imaginary bunch of flowers. Why not? Anybody raise hands? Just quick, give me an answer. Okay, Doljangla. Let us all listen to what Doljangla has to say. Say it again.
Because it's not true flowers.
Because the bunch of flowers in my right hand is not true. It's not real object. There's no real object there. There's no real object there. Because there's no real object there, my mind does not go after it. Right? So, let's say the Mr. Wong, my son, 18 years old, overconfident, not studying, expecting the best of the results. So nasty, not listening to us. So nasty. So you see your son as objectively real, not as like coming from your mind, as objectively real. If there's objectively real there, then your mind finds object after which to go or to run away from it. This is what happens. Whereas the imaginary flower, your mind remains calm. It doesn't go after this, it doesn't run away from this. With the imaginary, which means that something which comes from your mind is not affected. When you see the object as something solid like this, then it's beautiful flower, I liked it. What is this flower? Oh, he's always picking up a flower. What is this? Right? So there's aversion or there's attachment. Whereas with the imaginary flower, there's no aversion, there's no attachment. In other words, it is a simple example that I've given you, that when it does not have a substance there, when it is something coming from your mind, then your mental, the attachment pull and push stops. This is a very important point. So why this, say, the inappropriate attention, viewing things which actually exist in relative terms, viewing things as absolute. How does it happen? Is because of our mind falsely objectifying something, falsely objectifying the things out there. If they're false, is, let's say, in the dream. In the dream, how many of you are affected by a dream? In the dream, how many of you are affected by the dreams when you were in the dream? Raise hands. Okay, how many of you are? Okay, almost all of you. How many of you are affected by the same dream when you come out of the dream? Say you had in the dream, the tiger was jumping after you, Jackie. Tiger was jumping after Jackie, and you wake up. Oh, I'm so scared, Mom. I'm so scared. Tiger's jumping after me. Will you say this, Jackie? You will not say this because you know that this is just my mental projection. It's my dream. Whereas in the dream, you run away. You're seeing this as real. So when you see things as what is actually not real, you see things as real, then there you create the inappropriate tension. From there, afflictions. From there, contaminant karmas, and the miseries ensue. This is how miseries are created. So let's not forget this verse by Aranigarjuna. Ceasing of karmas and afflictions is nirvana. Karmas and afflictions arise from the conceptualization of the inappropriate attention, which in turn arises from the elaboration of the self-grasping ignorance. Self-grasping ignorance is what believes the unreal as real. What believes the non-objective things as objectively real. And the elaboration of the self-grasping ignorance ceases through the wisdom of emptiness. Let me repeat it. Ceasing, C-E-A-S-I-N-G, ceasing of karmas and afflictions is nirvana. Ceasing of karmas and afflictions is nirvana. Next line. Karmas and afflictions arise from the conceptualization of inappropriate attention. Karmas and afflictions arise from conceptualization of inappropriate attention. Third line. Which in turn arises from the elaboration of self-grasping ignorance. Line 3, which in turn arises from the elaboration of self-grasping ignorance. And the last line, this elaboration ceases through the wisdom of emptiness. This elaboration ceases through the wisdom of emptiness. Okay, this is extremely important concept. And some of you may be wondering why this self-grasping ignorance, believing, say with the example of the dream, believing the dream is real. That is what happens. While everything is like a dream, we don't see them as a dream. We see them as real. That is ignorance, and more precisely, this is known as self-grasping ignorance. This is precisely known as self-grasping ignorance, and we are going to study a lot on this as to what constitutes the self-grasping ignorance. Don't worry too much. As long as you know the terminology now, that's good enough. Self-grasping ignorance. And self-grasping ignorance in this text, this verse, it is identified as the elaboration. It is referred to as the elaboration. Some of you may be wondering why this is referred to as elaboration. Okay, let us see that in your dream, you are in your small bedroom, very small one, and then you dream of being in, let's say, in New Delhi or in Manhattan, somewhere. You dream of being there, and then you look around, and you see that there are so many buildings there, so many cars, and so many people, and each of the buildings, they have so many windows, and even the cars, they have their number plates, and the people, they have the different dresses, different hairs, different, say, the body sizes, and so forth. How many such the details are there? Infinite details are there. Okay. One time, and these, just see if you can relate this to your own life, in your own life, in your dreams, in real dreams. One time, that was when I was in my I think early 20s, perhaps 21 or 22, and I dreamt of being in Dharamsala, in the main temple, just circumambulating around the main temple. This was what I dreamt. And in the dream of let's say, circumambulating, meaning I was outside the main temple, outside. And I stretched my arms. And the rains, just not shower, but drops, tick, 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 like this. And I asked myself, is this dream? I asked myself. And then I could feel the drops, the raindrops on my skin. I could feel, I stretched my arms there. I could feel, literally I could feel each of the drops touching the skin of my arms. And then I decided, no, this can't be dream. And I woke up. I was really, in a way, like shocked to discover that in the dream I felt it so real. Okay, how many of you had such experience? Raise hands. I'm sure many of you. Very good. So these are the things that we have to relate to your own life and see how the dream, while it was purely projection of your own mind, how many agree with me that the dream was just projection of your mind? There's nothing really there outside. It was a projection of mind. Raise hands. Very good. While it's a projection of mind, but in the dream, you do not see them as your projection of your mind. You see them as real. How many agree with me? Raise hands. In the dream, you see them as real. Okay, good. Okay, so this is what is happening now, believe it or not. Now, we are all out of the conventional dream. We are all outside the conventional dream. And whatever we dreamt earlier, at the moment, if I tell you that these are all projection of mind, you agreed, yes. But what is happening now? What is happening now? Okay, you just, whatever is next to you, just pick that up, a pen, book, or mobile, or whatever. You just pick that up and show that to me. Okay, pick that up and show that to me. And not only show that to me, look at it yourself. Look at it yourself. Yes. And tell me, just tell me, how does it appear to you? Like a dream or so objectified there, so real? How does it appear to you? Okay, anybody? Very quick, raise hands. Anybody? Raise hands. Okay, Acha Kibala.
It appears so real.
It appears so real. Okay. Now, what are we going to learn from this NDC batch 3 is that whatever we are seeing, by no means they differ from the dreams. By no means they differ from the contents of the dream. Just as the contents of the dream, they're coming from the projection of a mind. Everything what is around me today, myself, my body, the pen, the books, the house. Everything is a projection of your own mind. When you come to know there's a projection of your own mind, then the involuntary pull and push stops. When the involuntary pull and push stops, your affliction stops. When the afflictions stop, then the undesirable actions, aggressive actions all stop. Physical, verbal actions stops. Then your miseries stop. Mental agitation stop. This is how we bring an end to the miseries. Okay. So from this, what we learned is that finally, to remove these poisonous fruits, we have to somehow make sure that the poisonous flowers are not there. To remove the poisonous flower, we have to make sure that the poisonous, the tiny branches, small branches were not there, which holds the flowers. To remove the branches, we have to remove the main stem, the main body of the main trunk. To remove this, we have to remove the root. So from this, what we come to learn is that the miseries, they arise, the fruits of the miseries, they arise from the contaminated karmas, the flowers of the contaminated karmas, which in turn arises from the tiny buds of the inappropriate attention, which in turn arises from finally the root of the self-grasping ignorance. This is how we come to know. Now, what should we do? If you don't want these miseries, what should we do? We have to stop the contaminated karmas. If you don't want the contaminated karmas, what should we do? We should stop the afflictions. If we don't want the afflictions, what should we do? We should cut the inappropriate attention. If we don't want the inappropriate attention, what should we do? We should cut the ignorance. The next question is how to cut the ignorance. Okay. How to cut the ignorance. This is where we are the study. This very systematic study, they say the one topic linking us, taking us to the second topic, to the third. This helps us to build up our knowledge, our conviction. Okay, how to cut this ignorance? Ignorance, by the very definition, is like being in darkness, in dark. What is darkness? Darkness is where you don't see what is around you. You don't see the reality. Ignorance is what stops you from having the vision of the reality. Ignorance stops you from having the vision of the reality. Darkness stops you from seeing what is around you. So ignorance is like darkness. So how to remove the ignorance? For that, just tell me how to remove the darkness. Say you have quiz, NDC bachelor quiz tomorrow, and then you have to study today, and you're burning the midnight lamp, and suddenly there's a power cut, and you cannot read the books anymore. What will you do? There's a darkness there. What will you do? Oh, Buddha, please remove the darkness. Is this what you're going to do? If you do that, if the Buddha is sitting next to you, he'll be very upset. He'll be very unhappy. What a stupid follower, right? What will he do? Better, instead of saying, Buddha, please remove the darkness, go to light a candle. Light a candle instead of praying to the Buddha. If the Buddha is sitting next to you, the Buddha will be very happy. Wow, this is a smart person who can really understand my philosophy, who can really be liberated from suffering. So the point is that you have to light a candle. You have to light something. You have to create a light. In other words, to remove the darkness, it is done only through introducing the light. Likewise, to remove the darkness of ignorance, it is only through introducing the light of the wisdom. To remove the darkness of ignorance, it is only through introducing the light of the wisdom that this darkness of ignorance can be eradicated, can be eliminated. What do you mean by the light of the wisdom? Light of the wisdom. Wisdom, by the very definition, is a discerning mind whose apprehension of the object tallies with the reality. Wisdom is a discerning mind. Wisdom is a discerning mind whose apprehension of the object tallies with the reality. Your question is, what's the reality? Okay, So now we have to explore what the reality is. And the opposite of reality is distorted reality or the fake reality. Distortion and the reality. So now to introduce this light of the wisdom, we have to know the reality. What constitutes the reality? This question. So for that matter, the Buddha taught what is known as the 4 seals of the Buddha's teachings. 4 seals, SEALS. The 4 seals of the Buddha's teachings. There are only 4 lines. There are only 4 lines. These are very comprehensive teachings given by the Buddha, referred to as the 4 seals of the Buddha's teachings. And these 4 seals, you find in the Mahayana teachings, you find these 4 seals. In the Theravada teachings, in the Pali teachings, you find them only 3 seals. There's no difference. These are just the same, but presented as 3 seals, and in Mahayana teachings, very commonly we find them as the 4 seals. But these were all taught by the same teacher, Buddha Shakyamuni. And if you read the sutras, Buddha's own teachings, you see that both are there. The 4 seals the 4 lines are there. In some cases, only 3 lines are there. Okay, so if we know that what these 4 lines are and the meaning so well, and how that is so relevant to our thought process, to know, relevant in our, say, the inner life, and on the basis of which we ignite the wisdom. We come to realize that these teachings, be it Theravada, the teachings that you find in Pali tradition, or the Buddhist teachings that you find in Sanskrit, the Sanskrit which actually traveled first to China, from China to Japan, Korea, Vietnam, and so forth, and then in the 7th and 8th century, it traveled to Tibet. So the Buddhism that we inherited in Tibet, it is primarily those translated from Sanskrit language. So, but after all, these were all taught by the same teacher, Buddha Shakyamuni. So we have to know these 4 seals, and on the basis of this, we will also learn what in Pali text there's a mention of the 3 seals, the 3. Okay. So what are they? Number 1, all composite things are impermanent, which we read already. Tunsi Guntapla, he read for us. All composite things are impermanent. Number 1, all composite things are impermanent. Number 2, all contaminated things are of suffering nature. All contaminated things are of suffering nature. Number 2. Number 3, everything is of the nature of emptiness and selflessness. Everything is of the nature of emptiness and selflessness. Number 4, transcending sorrow is absolute peace. Number 1, all composite things are impermanent. Number 2, all contaminated things are of suffering nature. Number 3, everything is of the nature of emptiness and selflessness. Number 4, transcending sorrow is absolute peace. Okay, these are the 4. Now for your information, first I'd like to tell you what's the difference between how that is presented in the Pali canon in general, and how you find this in the what's the difference between these two? Pali, what do you find in Pali text, and what do you find in Sanskrit text in general? In Sanskrit text, both are there, a 3 and 4 version, both are there. Okay, in Pali, there you find a mention of the first, anachya. Anachya means impermanence. Impermanence. All composite things are impermanent. Number 1, anachya. Number 2, dukkha. All contaminated things are suffering nature. Dukkha means suffering. and some people translate it as miseries. Some people translate it as unease. It doesn't matter. Dukkha, number 2. Then number 3, anatta. Anatta meaning selflessness. Everything is the nature of the anatta. Everything is the nature of selflessness. This is what you find in predominantly in Pali, these 3. And then with the 4 seals, what is added is the transcending sorrow is absolute peace. The last line is added. But the Buddha taught all 4. And sometimes Buddha taught only 3. Sometimes Buddha taught 4. So we learn both the versions. That's very helpful. Okay. The next question is why these 4 teachings are referred to as the seals. S-E-A-L. Seals. Why? This question. Okay, let's say that somebody should tell me, if a government seals a building, what does it mean by that? Okay, Sureshji, Mr. Sureshji, what does it mean by that? A government seals a building.
Nobody can enter or exit from the building.
Yes, don't touch it. Nobody can enter, nobody can exit. Don't touch it. Don't touch this building. You're getting it? Okay, the government sealed the building. So, metaphorically, the Buddha sealed these 4 teachings. What do you mean by Buddha sealing these teachings? Buddha gave so many teachings. But some of the teachings, they are very contextual. Very contextual, meaning that depending on the individual. Say, for example, let's say the Buddha, the monks, Buddha advised that you are forbidden from doing the business, selling, buying, for your own profit, for your personal profit. You're not supposed to do that. And then the issues came up that some of them end up into heavy debt because they're connected with their families and so forth. They were helping them, and the heavy debt. So the issue then, if they don't do the business, then how will they come out of this debt? Issue was brought to the Buddha. Then Buddha said there is exception. So in other words, some of the teachings of Buddha it is situational. It is situational. It is contextual. But the Buddha said that these 4 lines, they are not contextual. They are never contextual. The Buddha said that anybody who wants to get out of miseries, anybody who wants to get out of fears, there's no exception. They have to practice these 4. Whereas there are many other teachings which are very contextual. Buddha is very flexible. Buddha said that, okay, this teaching, this teaching more suits better in this place. Those people in this place should follow this. Those people in other places may not follow these. Those people in this particular time can follow this, in other times may not follow these. So it's very flexible. The Buddha's teachings, they're very flexible depending on the suitability, how it suits to somebody. Then the Buddha said, you do this. If it doesn't suit you, don't do it. Whereas these 4 things, the Buddha said, anybody who likes to get away from miseries, you have to follow these. Without following these 4, sorry, there's no way by which you can come out of these problems. And these 4 are not the edicts of the Buddhas, the edicts from the Buddhas. These are the 4 things which the Buddha discovered. These are not the 4 things the Buddha invented. These are not the theology of the Buddha. The theology, the concepts, Buddha created and imposed on us that you have to do it if you want to be liberated. No. These are the 4 things the Buddha discovered. These are the 4 realities which exist way before the Buddha became a Buddha. These four things exist as reality even before the Buddha became a Buddha. Buddha only discovered these four. For example, let's say the Einstein, he discovered the relativity theorem, and the Niels Bohr, he discovered the quantum effect. So these are all discovered, not invented. Likewise, these four principles, they are discovered by the Buddha, not invented by the Buddha. Okay, so these are the four things. Now the point is that how do we know that? How do we know that if you don't follow these four, then you will not achieve enlightenment, or you will not achieve freedom from the fears of life, or you will not achieve a total liberation or freedom? How can I know this? Or how can you know that if you follow these four principles, then you will be liberated? You will be freed from all the mental anxiety, anguish, stress. How do you know that? Okay, for that matter, we have to study this first. Study this first. We have to study what they are, and then we have to reflect on these, and then you meditate to see if they actually give rise to these effects, the benefits. Okay, the first one, all composite things are impermanent. All composite things are impermanent. The first one. First of all composite. What does it mean by composite? Composite phenomena. What do you mean by composite phenomena? Composite phenomena are those things which are made of, let's say, which are made of smaller parts. Which are made of smaller parts. Like, say, the flower is made of atoms. Your body is made of flesh, bone, blood, and so forth. These are the body made of smaller parts. And the planet Earth is made of, say, the water, the earth, and the air, and so forth. And finally, the physical aspect, they're all made of particles. Particles like atoms, electrons, protons, neutrons. The physical world is made of these smaller particles. And this is how the physical world is a composite phenomenon. Now there's a mental world also. Mental world. Mental world. What is a mental world? Mental world simply means a mind. Say, I'm happy, I'm not happy, right? I'm happy, I'm not happy. Okay, today I feel so fresh, I feel like meditating. Oh no, today I feel so sluggish, I feel so slow, I can't meditate. These are all mental phenomena. These are all mental phenomena. Say, you know that you are unhappy today. You know that you are thinking of your mother today. But if you're put in the fMRI scan, if you put in the CAT scan or fMRI scan, the neuroscientists, they cannot see that you are thinking of your mother, but you know that you are thinking of your mother. That is a mind. So that mind is also an entity. This is one entity which decides you are happy or not happy. Which decides, which decides how intelligent you are, how compassionate you are, how lazy you are. And this is because of this that we have all these the medical facilities. We have all these psychology, everything, they all come into being because of this mind. When this mind within us, when it goes haywire, there's a nightmare coming in you, schizophrenia, insomnia. Because of insomnia, then the next day whole body feels so heavy, lethargic, inserviceable. And then the psychosis, like all these problems, and then your mind feels so restless. So it's for this reason all these very expensive hospitals, clinics, they all came because of that. So the point is that there's a mind there. This mind is also made of parts. This mind is also composite phenomena. How is the mind composite phenomena? This question. For example, the mind is not made of atoms. Mind is not made of atoms, but the mind is made of what kind of parts? This is known as temporal parts. Mind is made of temporal parts. The physical things are made of the let's say particles. Physical things, physical world is made of, say, material particles, material parts. And the mind is made of temporal parts, temporal parts. What is meant by temporal parts? This question. Temporal parts, temporal meaning time. The mind exists in time. The mind does not exist in physical realm. The mind exists in time. Mind does not exist in a directional realm, directional space. Only the physical body exists in the directional space. The mind exists in time. And the physical material things, they exist in the directional space as well as in time. But the mind exists only in time. And the time has temporal segments. Like what? Okay, today, whole day, I'm very happy. A whole day, I'm very unhappy. When it's a whole day, my mind is very happy. Your mind of 24 hours. That is in time. So 24 hours mind. There's no solid mind to say this is 24 hours mind. This 24 hours mind exists with 24 parts. The first hour mind, the second hour mind, third hour mind, fourth hour mind, and so forth. And even the first hour mind also exists in time. First hour mind has again 60 divisions. The first minute mind, second minute mind, third minute mind, and so forth. And the first minute mind again has 60 divisions, 60 parts, 60 moments. The first second mind, second mind, third second mind, and so forth. How long can we go like this? This is a question. This is a question of the logicians. Philosophers and the logicians, they ask this question. How far can we go to see the mind as smaller in time? Okay, that's going to be a very separate discussion. We will do it some other times. For time being, what we learn is that all composite things which are made of directional parts and which are made of temporal parts, they should necessarily be impermanent in nature. For example, with the physical world, yes, you ask any physicist, you ask any elementary, the particle physicist, they will say that yes, the whole world is momentarily moving. The whole world, whole universe is in constant flux of movement, is constant flux of change, like this movement. This is known as impermanence. Likewise, our mind. And our mind is also momentarily changing. And if you don't know how our mind is changing momentarily, you learn how to do the meditation. And then I ask you, keep your mind single-pointedly on, say, your breath, on your breath for 10 minutes. And you just sit there, okay, live for 1 minute. In 1 minute, your mind will move here and there 100 times. It cannot sit on the breath. Your mind will move that many times. It's excited, it's scattered here and there. Innumerable times, believe it or not. That's going to be your experiential understanding, that the mind really changes so fast. So this is the meaning of all composite things are impermanent. Now the next point is this impermanence. This impermanence is of two kinds: gross impermanence and the subtle impermanence. Let's not forget it. Impermanence is of two kinds: gross impermanence and the subtle impermanence. Gross impermanence. Gross impermanence is an impermanent phenomena. Or we can say a gross impermanence is a phenomena is a thing whose continuum can come to an end. Gross impermanence is a thing or is a substantial phenomena whose continuum comes to an end. Whose continuum can come to an end. A substantial phenomena. Substantial meaning substance, something which is made of substance. Gross impermanence is a substantial phenomena whose continuum can come to an end. The subtle impermanence is the momentariness of all substantial phenomena. Momentariness of all substantial phenomena. Okay, let me give you some examples. Gross impermanence. Let's say that the COVID-19, it came and eventually it'll disappear. That's for sure. Whether naturally disappear or by introducing what is that the herd immunity, through the herd immunity, or through naturally to disappear, or through the vaccines, for whatever reason it will disappear. And for example, 2021, at the moment it's 2021, and then the 2022 January 1st. At that point, 2021 is gone. The continuum of 2021 ends when the 2022 begins. 2020 already gone. So the continuum of these things disappear. So impermanent does not necessarily mean that impermanent phenomena means that something should come to an end. This is not the meaning. Impermanent, there are two kinds. One, where the continuum comes to an end. Another kind of impermanent phenomena, where the continuum never comes to an end. For us, when you say, oh, my glass broke, because it's an impermanent phenomena. This is a very gross understanding of impermanence. Okay, so this is gross impermanence. For example, sickness, aging, death. All these are the gross impermanence. Even the beautiful sunset. Even the beautiful sunset also grossly impermanent, because you look at it within 2-3 minutes time, that beautiful scene is gone. How many of you enjoy watching the sunset? Raise hands. Sunset on the ocean, particularly on the ocean. Yes, how long does it last? 2 hours? No. How long does it last? 2 hours or 3 hours? Just few minutes. Just few minutes. It disappears. And then the next morning, the beautiful sunshine comes. Again, the evening, that beautiful sunshine goes away. This is impermanence, gross impermanence. And okay, this one part. And so there's a story. There's a story of in a monastery, that in those days, like maybe 100 to 200, 300 years ago, in those days, the facilities, they are not as good as what is today. So, like say the thermos, they are so precious. Thermos inside is glass, it's not steel. How many of you have seen that? Thermos with glass inside. Yeah, which is stronger? Thermos with glass inside or thermos with steel inside? Which is stronger? No comparison. Thermos in steel is much stronger, right? So in those days, thermos with steel inside is so rare. So everything is the thermos with glass inside. And it's so precious because we don't easily get them in those days. Then one day, the student, the monk student, the teacher assigned him to take care of the thermos, clean the thermos, and he broke the thermos. And it's so expensive, it's so precious, and the teacher, no doubt, he'll beat you up. And the student went to the teacher. Sir, is it true that all composite things are impermanent? That is, of course, I've been teaching you this all the time. You even don't know this. Even now you don't know this. He said, I see. All composite things are impermanent. He said, yes, of course, including the thermos. The teacher said, oh, okay, what happened? So this morning I was watching it and then it broke. Then I realized it must be the composite phenomena. All composite things are impermanent. So then this is why I'm double checking with the venerable sir. And the teacher could not say anything. So otherwise, this was like a trick from the boy, from the young monk. Yeah, he was trying to prevent the beating from the teacher. Okay, this is one thing. And then the story is connected. And again, a teacher and student in the monastery. And the teacher makes the student work so hard. And the teacher was always, whenever the teacher was asking the monk to work, the young monk to work, the teacher would say, okay, you finish this work. We'll finish this work, and once we finish the work, then we'll go for a picnic. And it never happens. Every day, just new work, and no picnic at all. 2 years, 3 years gone, still no picnic. 4 years gone, still no picnic. And then the student would remind the teacher, when will we have the picnic? Oh, when we complete all this work, then we'll go for picnic. That's for sure, don't worry. And there's still no picnic after another 1 year, 2 years, no picnic. Then one day, the teacher was inside the house, and the student was shouting, screaming at the teacher, Sir, people are going for picnic, Says, what are you saying? So look, there people are going for picnic. And the sir came out, and what is happening? There was a people carrying corpse. So the student was saying that this is a picnic. Only when I die, you will say that this is a picnic. Only when I die, then my work will finish. Otherwise, you will never give me a picnic because there's continues going to be a work. Okay. So these things are these things. There's a great message there. While we know these stories, there's a message there. Impermanence. In other words, this boy is saying that this is impermanence. And then there was one great teacher, the Tondo Rinpoche from Sakya tradition. He's really great. So he, when I was in my 20s, maybe 21, I was escorting him from my monastery to the school. On the way, he was sharing, his experiences, and then he told me that he told me what he was telling me was actually advice. He was advising me, but he was not conveying the message or the advice in the form of advice. It's so like he was just sharing stories. Later on, I came to discover that it was just actually he was advising me to think in that way. So he would say that what he was telling me was that, when he was a student himself in his class, when the debates about impermanence, all composite things, impermanence, so forth, all these the topics of these debates, there was one particular monk whose name was Tashi. And this boy, since he started to study the Buddhist philosophy as as a beginner. From there, he was making sure that his studies, reflections, and meditations, these two things are happening side by side. Not just going for the dry intellectual inquiry all the time, but studying, reflection, meditation side by side. And he put it so nicely. He said that this monk, Tashi, so whenever we would go for the debate and discussions, so in the debate, there's a particular rule. There's a protocol there where you have to use the particular syllogism, the debate format. You have to follow this format so well that the debate becomes very effective, where there's the economy words and what word you are allowed to add, what word you are not allowed to add. All these rules are there so that debate becomes very effective within a short span of time. Two really bright students, if they debate within a short span of time, they can decide extremely profound topics within such a short span of time. So how the debate, the structure was put forth is like, say, the flower as the topic. It is impermanent because it is produced. This is a syllogism, and we're going to learn what syllogism is later on. So it's a structure, how you put forth the debate. That is known as the proper way of putting forth the debate, is known as the syllogism. So usually we'll say the flower as the topic, it is impermanent because it is produced. For example, the last moment of the dying flame. The last moment of the dying flame. Just as the last moment of the dying flame, the next moment, the flame disappears. Likewise, even this flower one day will disappear, or it is impermanent because it is produced the way, the manner in which the last moment of the flame is produced, and therefore it is impermanent. This poet Tashi, Venerable the Thongdo Rinpoche, he was sharing with me. This poet Tashi would never say the flower as the topic, the pot as the topic. What he would say is that Tashi is the topic. He is impermanent because he is produced like the last moment of the dying flame. He would always relate these studies with his personal quest of the Dharma practice. And I was just thinking of that. Okay, he was the Thongdo Rinpoche was just sharing, his childhood experiences with me. Later on, I came to realize this was all actually advice given to me, telling me that I should think like this. This is so precious, so precious. Okay, so this says the all composite things are impermanent. The gross one is impermanent phenomena where the continuum comes to an end. Now there are impermanent phenomena. Look, this is a benefit of attending the Nalanda Diploma course. Very systematically we study, because that you have already studied you've already taken the earlier 3 or 4 sessions. There's a flow there. Now when I talk about the technicalities, this is not going to be difficult for you. This is easy for you. Whereas if I'm to say, I'm sure many of you have already attended many teachings, Buddhist teachings earlier, and most likely most of you have not heard about impermanent phenomena which last eternally. Impermanent phenomena means something which does not last eternally. But now we are learning the technicalities. That impermanent phenomena does not necessarily be something which lasts briefly. Does not necessarily mean that there is the end of the continuum. Because there are impermanent phenomena which lasts eternally long. For example, your mind. Your mind is impermanent, but it lasts forever, eternally. And you will ask me a question. If something lasts eternally, that is permanent. If it is permanent, permanent should be the opposite of impermanent. How can it be impermanent? Okay, so this is what you will ask me. For that matter, I'll give you one example. You reflect on this and then be wise enough, just see how intelligent you are to relate this to the mind and to the self, even the person. Self, I, you. You have been existing since beginningless time, and you will exist eternally long. And your mind have been existing since beginningless time, and it will go at eternally. Okay, this is reality. Now, how can we understand this? I thought that Buddhism said everything is impermanent. No, only the composite things are impermanent. Number one. The non-composite things, they are not impermanent, they are permanent. And many people, they are so naive to say that in Buddhism, everything is impermanent. No, that is so naive, which means that you don't really know the technicalities of the Buddhist teachings. Only the composite phenomena are impermanent, not the non-composite phenomena. Non-composite phenomena are permanent. And yet permanent, impermanent, the demarcation is not on the basis of whether or not something exists eternally, something lasts forever. No. But even permanent phenomena can be so brief, and impermanent can be eternally long. Okay, let me give you one example, and once you understand this, okay, that makes sense. Then you apply this to the mind, to the self, I, you. How this self exists since time immemorial and will continue ad infinitum. Like was the mind, like was the time. They're all impermanent phenomena, but last forever. Okay, the example that I like to give you is that let's say a person who lived for 90 years. Let's say a person who lived for 90 years, 90. Let's say a person name is David, let's say. David, who lived for 90 years. Day one, this boy was born. David, for 90 years, this person continued. The continuum of this person did not stop. How many agree with me? Raise hands. Very good. Okay, you have to follow. Just see if you agree with me. The point where you don't agree, you have to stop me and ask me the question. So the point is that, let's say Mr. David, who lived for 90 years, and he was born. Day one he was born, till the last day he existed on this earth. So which means the duration of 90 years. For the 90 years, for all these 89 years, the continuum of Mr. David did not end. How many agree with me? Raise hands. Yes. So it lasted that long, but every year he was changing. Every year he was changing. At one point, he was only holding the teddy bear, right? When he was age 1, 2, 3, his favorite thing is to hold the teddy bears. Then age 3, 4, 5, his favorite thing is to get hold of chocolates and little distance from teddy bears. And then his job is to say A for apple, B for ball, C for cat. This is his job. Then age 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, then A for apple is gone. He always starts to see, I want apple. Then the age 16, 17, 18, finishes high school. Then age 17, 18, 19, he goes to colleges. Then at the age of like 24, 25, 26, he starts to get a job. Okay, and then this is how he lead his life. How many agree with me? Raise hands. In other words, why you are raising your hands, what for you are raising your hands is to say that you agree with me that this Mr. A, although he lived for 90 years, all along he was changing every year. How many agree with me? Raise hands. Although the continuum did not stop all these 90 years, but he was changing every year, every month, every day. He was changing. So, when to say that there's a change happening, what is impermanent? Impermanent means something changing. to bring about a change or to see the change, it is not necessary that the continuum of the object should stop. Not necessary. Mr. David continues all these 90 long years. And every day he was changing. But his continuum never stopped till the last moment of the 90th year, which means that something can exist that long, not necessarily remaining static. It can be changing every moment, but the continuum can last long. So this is how ourself, I, you, we exist. This life, next life, next life, previous lives. You just go ad infinitum in the future, you go ad infinitum in the past. This continuum is always there, but every moment there's a change happening within. So this change happening within, this change is known as impermanent. And for to have the change, it is not necessary that the continuum should stop. Okay, so therefore, we can think of impermanent phenomena which can last forever and permanent phenomena which can last so briefly. Let's say the sound of a clap. It exists just for a split of a second. And there are many attributes of this sound which are permanent, but which last as brief as a split of a second. Permanent doesn't mean something lasting forever. Let's not forget this. This is what we have to explore, learn. Once you learn this, then our very naive understanding of the Buddhist concept of impermanence will be removed. Naivety will be removed, and your understanding will become very clear. Okay. So all composite things are impermanent. So this is a part of the first line. The first seal is what we did today. Okay, before we stop here, I'd like to entertain one or two questions if you have. Just raise your hands if you have questions. Raise hands. Okay, Shabnamji.
Geshe, I did not understand what you just said about the sound of a clap has many attributes that are permanent. I could not understand that.
Okay. Shabnamji, what I may say is that except for those people here whose faces I can see, who are doing NMC, Northern Master's course for the last more than 4 years, and then who did Northern Diploma course, batch 1, batch 2, I can see many of those faces here. Except for these people, most of them have the same question that you have. How many of you have the same question as Shabnamji? Raise hands. Very good. So Shabnamji, believe it or not, this is what happened. Look, this is how the same question. In fact, on the okay, I promise to do it. Not today. I promise to do it in the next class. And Shabnamji, if I switch my topic to the before I switch to the second seal, all contaminated things of suffering nature, it is your responsibility to remind me, to make sure that I do this. How they say a sound of a clap which lasts for a split of a second has so many the attributes which are permanent, and which only last for a split second, yet being permanent. How that is possible? So this is what we're going to discuss in the next class. Okay. Any more questions? No hands coming up. Chimila.
Geshe,
Yes.
can you hear me? So,
Yes.
thank you so much for today's teaching. In today's teaching, we mentioned about the example of the wheel and comparing to reality, like when you know how the dream is a projection of the mind and there's no control over it. But I have experience where, and some people say that sometimes a dream is a projection of the mind, or maybe you're thinking too much about that and so you dream of it. But I have experience where I never thought about it, or out of the blue I have a dream, and when I wake up I call the person and it happened for real. So is there like a explanation for that, or is it like a telepathic or coincidence, or how does the dream actually like become a reality?
Okay, this is a good question. Thank you, Chimila. First, let us keep in mind that this dream, it has multiple facets. It has so many, say, attributes. And what we are talking about is only one of the attributes, that this dream, we don't have the choice to choose the dream. This is what we were discussing. And the dream, let's say, somebody, let's say, somebody who was your classmate 20 years ago, 30 years ago, right? I dreamt of having the meeting with him and having the discussing on the all-compensating impermanent. I dreamt of that. And then the next day, that person actually comes. And two of you, okay, of 30 years, we did not see each other. You meet, you go to, let's go for a cup of coffee. And then you start, what are you doing? I'm doing NDC batch 3. What is NDC batch 3? It's about all composite things are permanent. You start discussing. Wow, that's so real. What gave me the dream actually happened. Okay, so let's say this is the anecdote. This is the scenario. But this dream, you did not tell your family members, okay, tonight I will have a very interesting dream. You did not say this. You did not even have a thought that you're going to have this dream. It happened. So the example that we're giving here of the dream is that we don't have the choice to choose the particular dream. This is one side. And then another side that you're bringing up, which we call as the deja vu or the prophecy, prophetic dreams. So this is another element. It is another element. So can these be true? Can these, they say, dreams, can they be prophetic? This is a question. Answer is 99% of the dreams cannot be prophetic. 1% of the dream can be prophetic in some cases. In some cases. It can be prophetic. Particularly, say say what we can say for sure is if you meditate a lot and if your meditation picks up the quality, in other words, you become a good meditator, very experienced meditation, where your meditation becomes very profound, then the dreams will come to you. These dreams can be very prophetic. Otherwise, for those people who do not really meditate, who do not have such deep experience of meditation, for them, such prophetic dreams can happen or not. Yes, it can happen, but very rare. These things can happen, but very rare. So these are what we call as the prophetic dreams, or in some cases, it can be like, say, the activation, the imprints of the past. What happened in the past can come into dream. Sometimes it can be prophetic of the future. What will happen in the future can come into dream. These things can happen. Absolutely possible. Okay. Next question. Last question, if somebody has. Okay. The Kristen, last sister Kristen.
Geshe,
Yes.
inappropriate attention. My understanding of inappropriate attention is the mind seeing things which are relative relative real as objectively real. Am I right?
Okay, this is. I'm happy that Sister Christian, you brought this up. What exactly is inappropriate attention? In other words, how can we give the meaning to this? We can say that inappropriate attention is a mistaken conceptualization, which conceptualizes as which conceptualizes an independent quality of an object as opposed to being a relative quality. Okay, let me say it again. The inappropriate attention is a mistaken conceptualization or mistaken conceptual mind, which conceptualizes an absolute or independent quality, independent attribute or independent quality of an object, as opposed to being being a relative phenomena or relative quality, a quality in relativity. In other words, okay, so what it is saying is that things, qualities, good, bad, and so forth, they only exist in relative terms. But when we see them as so absolute, not in relative terms. What exists in relative terms, but we see them as absolute quality, that is known as inappropriate attention. An example that I like to give you is that if you really want to know what is inappropriate attention, if you really want to know this, let's say that you can do this experiment. You can keep 3 containers. One container where you keep a very cold water, add ice to it. And the second one, a normal water. And the third one, which is like the 40, not 40, let's say 38, 39 degrees centigrade. And second one is like, say, 15, 16, 17 degrees centigrade. And the first one is like 0 degrees centigrade, 0 degree or 4 degrees centigrade, 5 degrees centigrade, 15 degrees centigrade, and 35 degrees centigrade, let's say. What you do is that you insert your left hand in the 5 degrees centigrade water, which is very cold. Keep it there for 2 minutes. While putting your hand there, put your other hand, your right hand, in the hot water, which is 35 degrees centigrade. Put it there. And you just feel the water C, container C, you'll feel it hot. And feel container A, you feel it freezing cold. Keep it there for 4, 5, 6 minutes. Now, take out both hands and put in the second container with 15 degrees centigrade. Right hand will say that it is very cold. Left hand will say that it's very hot. Right? Which means left hand is saying it's very cold relative to the first one. What this hand experienced, the first one, 35 degrees centigrade. And the left hand is saying it's very hot, only relative to the container A, which is 5 degrees centigrade, which is very cold. But the two hands believe experientially, it's not just intellectual. Experientially, you will feel that your right hand will feel it so cold, and the left hand will see experience it as so hot. The same water. So this is how our mind is being deceived by this inappropriate attention. You must do this exercise. You must do this. And the another exercise would be, you want to enjoy the sour apples. Sour apples you don't like. You don't like. But if this is the only apple that you have and you want to taste it so sweet, you do one thing. You eat a lemon first. You eat a lemon and chew it for like 5 minutes. And then eat this sour apple. You will not throw this apple. It's so sweet. It's so delicious. This is how things exist in relative terms. But we see them as so absolutely delicious, absolutely sweet. And then you eat. After this, you eat some the chocolates or some chocolate cake, and then you eat the same apple. It's so sour. You will throw this. Okay, just experiment it. This is how we are operating. We are operating in this world. iPhone 12 is amazing, so good, so good. Oh, this is so bad. Oh, this child is so bad. This child is so good. These are all inappropriate attention, because of which then the pull and push happens. Pull and push happens. When the pull and push happens, then your mind is stirred. It is made into verbally, fighting with the other person. All this unnecessary, all these the problems, conflicts in the world, they're all because of this inappropriate attention and rooted to the believing things as objectively real. Okay, we'll stop here today. In the next session, we'll continue. Still, the first part, the all composite things impermanent is not complete. So once that is complete, then we and then of course we have the question, this question left. We'll continue. We'll do that as well, and then we'll continue. We'll connect to the next seal. Okay, thank you.
Additional dedication prayers. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chandra-Sikh Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samandapatra too realize things as they are, also I dedicate all these merits in the best way that I may follow their perfect example. I dedicate all these rules of virtue with the dedication praised as the best by the Buddhas who appeared in the 3 times, so that I might perform the noble Bodhisattva's deeds. Chancho sem chorem poche ma ke pa nam ke gyorje ke pa nyam pa me pa ya kong ne kong tu per sho. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind of full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge to the triple gem. I confess the negativities individually. I rejoice in the virtues of all the beings. I hold the precious Buddhahood in my heart. By the power of practicing and supplicating to you, may all be free from sickness, poverty, and conflicts, and may Dharma and the auspiciousness proliferate in all the places where we abide. May no living creature ever suffer, commit wrong, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled, or their minds ever be depressed. May all the pains of living creatures ripen solely upon myself, and through the might of the Bodhisattva Sangha, may all beings experience happiness. The path of the union of emptiness and compassion is lucidly explained by the protector of both the Dhamma and the beings of the land of snows. You are the lotus holder, Tenzin Gyatso. We supplicate you that your wishes are fulfilled spontaneously. May the operations of evil thoughts and deeds, of the negative forces of humans and non-humans, who harbor malice through perverted prayers against the teachings of the Buddhas, be totally vanquished through the power of the truth of the 3 jewels. By the dependent realization of the profound suchness of appearance and emptiness, together with the force of great compassion of the 3 jewels and the power of the truth, and the virtue of infallible law of karmas and their fruits, may this truthful prayer of ours be unhindered and quickly fulfilled. May the teaching of this beneficent one, till world's end, be unshaken by the winds of evil thoughts. May it always be met by innumerable beings who find conviction in the teacher by understanding the teaching's true nature. May I never falter, even for an instant, to uphold the excellent way of the sage, which illuminates the principle of dependent origination through all my births, even giving away my body and life. May I spend day and night carefully reflecting by what means can I enhance this teaching achieved by the Supreme Savior through strenuous efforts over countless eons. Throughout my future lifetimes, may I always be guided by Ida Manjushri and be able to uphold the Dharma in general and the teachings on dependent origination in particular, even at the cost of my life. We'll now recite the Hajra mantra for 3 times. Tayatha Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhi Swaha Tyatha Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhi Swaha Tyatha Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhi Swaha. Thank you, Geshe. Thank you, Geshe. Thank you, everyone.